Hello, marketing friends. Andrew Walton rocking the mic here, back with another sales page review. And today we're going to be looking at something from the fashion and personal style industry, which I think is going to be a lot of fun because it's not one of these marketing things or biz op things or lose weight things, something totally different, and I think a piece that we're going to all learn a lot from. And because I'm feeling a little self-indulgent today, because I really want to wow the first 30 people who decide to join the Two Llama Club, I think I'm going to throw in one of these little copy reviews for the first 30 as well. So enough about me pitching my ass off. Let's get into the copy. So, 80-20, right? First of all, uh, unlike most of the copy reviews I do here, I think design is absolutely mission critical for this page. Usually I'm all about the words on the page. Here we're talking about style, personal style, wardrobe, etc. Right? So a lot of the selling I think should be done with the visuals. This is more of a show, don't tell sort of thing. So just as a very quick overview, scrolling down the page, there are, like you can see that there are some maybe different outfits or formulas or what have you here, but I don't see, there aren't any big in your face blown up, like if this was blown up to 10 times the size and covering half the screen, blown up images where I can really get a sense of the thing that I'm going to get by buying this. Here are some cool examples, and I get it that you might not want to reveal all the secrets, right? But you should absolutely show what the result can be, right? This goes for pretty much anything. In BizOp stuff, we show income statements or PayPal screenshots. In weight loss, we show before and after pictures. This here, I think it's even more important to show, not tell, because it's such a highly visual medium, right? So that is one thing that before we even talk about a single word on the page, I think we have to take a look at. So now let's get into the actual copywriting 80-20 here. What are the biggest levers that, when pulled, are going to create a 20 or 50 or 200% lift? Obviously, starting with the headline, this is our prime real estate, because most people are going to decide whether they scroll down and read or watch the video or just leave based on what you're saying here. So one thing, there are a couple tests that you can run here. One is, I'm not sure that the 14-day timeline is going to be as critical to people as being able to create a wardrobe that they like based on a specific budget that they have. My suspicion would be, my hypothesis, the thing that I would test is testing something more like in as or on as little as 150 euros, for example. You might play with that number, right? But I think the money, I suspect that if you test the money factor versus the time factor, the money factor will probably win in this case. Can't guarantee it, but playing the odds, that's probably what's going to work for you there. The next thing about making this headline really pop is using the words that your audience themselves thinks and uses to describe what's going on in their life, or describing the pain that they feel, right? So average outfits sounds like what a marketer might say to describe the before state that the prospect is in, right? But it doesn't really sound like the thing that a woman might say to her girlfriends over coffee, right? Or wherever they talk about this sort of thing. Likewise, the don't fit the standard style and shape boxes, it's a solid idea, but the execution of this idea, so the what is great, the how I think has a lot of room for improvement by using the specific language that your audience uses. And more than that, when you can get into things that people can see and touch and taste and hear and smell, things you can point a finger at in the real world, those sorts of sentences, that sort of phrasing typically works more effectively. This seems to be a sort of branded phrase of some sort. It appears multiple times throughout the text. It's, again, I think this is a case where the idea itself is good. The idea of being Instagrammable is a good idea. The problem here is that this is an absolute mouthful to read. Instagrammable signature style is 10 syllables, and it's not sticky, right? It doesn't get stuck in your mind. I might have a little bit of an advantage here, having studied music, but I try to make all my names of things should be, or I aim for a musical or poetic quality. The best example, I can give you two examples. Crushing conversion. You have the two hard K sounds, or hard C sounds, the K sound. And it also follows this sort of dot 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 pattern. Now, you don't have to get as esoteric as that. The point I'm trying to make here is that if you really want to have a powerful name of something, it should be really easy to remember and really hard to forget. I'll give another one. The name of my wife's business that I came up with is Bloom by Design. It also sort of has a certain rhythm to it. It doesn't have to be rhythmic. Alliteration is a great tool to use. Eben Pagan with his Double Your Dating. This is I think the best example that of all time, perhaps. Double Your Dating with David D'Angelo. That's pretty cool. You got the 4D sounds, and you got this same sort of rhythmic flow to it. So don't want to go too deep into that. Again, it doesn't have to be super esoteric, but there absolutely is something to. Think of it like this. If the headline is the 80/20 of your sales page, then the name of your business and or the name of your product is like the 80/20 of the 80/20, right? That's the name of the actual thing you're selling, or the brand that you're building an audience and a community around, right? So I truly believe that if you spend as much time on your headline as you spend on the rest of the sales piece, then you're headed in the right direction. And if you spend probably 10 times as much time on the name of your business and the name of your product as you do on your headline, then you're absolutely going in the right direction. And these are the levers that make the biggest difference. If Russell Brunson had called Expert Secrets, anything else, it probably would have sold much fewer copies. If whatever her name is, Rhonda or called The Secret, anything else, well, actually, it still would have sold a lot because of Oprah, but it would have sold less, almost certainly. The name matters. So let's carry on to the next most important section. If this is sort of hooking people's attention, this is getting them to stay along for the ride. And essentially the goal of the rest of this, so if we're thinking about what's the purpose of all this, right? This is to get people to essentially read the next line. And I know there are copywriters that say, the purpose of any line is to get people to read the next line, or the purpose of any word is to get people to read the next word. Not really, because a lot of people scroll. That is absolutely not scientifically accurate in any shape, way, or form. But the purpose of all the rest of this material is to get people to read the offer. It's to get people to the offer. And so they arrive at the offer in a buying mood. So how do we do that? Well, first of all, by making every single one of these headlines something that stands on its own, that draws attention on its own. So if I'm scrolling, I would be forced to stop here because this is really compelling. So a line like, "You don't need to do this anymore," it's a great piece of copy, but it's not a great headline. And the reason for that is if I'm scrolling and I haven't read the last couple lines, then this doesn't mean anything to me, right? Now, if you were to use the next turn this into a headline of some sort. You'd say something like, this system, okay, write it on the fly. This simple system, and you could put it in quotes and italics, for example. This system takes away the need to, okay, I don't like the way this is worded. Okay, so something like, this system allows, okay, now anyone can look like blank, not a supermodel, that's not the word you want to use. Anyone can have the fashion sense of a magazine model without having a magazine model's body, something like this, right? You want to say that so it's both ethical and compelling and in the language of your audience, which admittedly I don't know a lot about, but I think you can understand the strategic idea there is sound. And if you find the right wording that connects with that audience, then this headline will be in a good place. So yeah, the now you can, the blank, which is the big desired result, outcome that they want. Now you can have whatever it is, the supermodel, rock star, wardrobe, without the thing they don't want. Or without the thing that they feel they lack, right? The certain type of body. And same thing applies to all the rest of the headlines. This is good. You're resetting attention, different background, love it. It's like, oh, okay, this is the thing I'm getting, so that's a good headline. And so on and so forth. Not going to go through every headline. You get the point. All of these should reset people's attention, grab attention, and be super compelling. These have to, I'll put it this way, all of these headlines should demand to be read regardless of how much of the rest of the piece anyone has read. So with that said, the other thing I want to say is about the intro here. This is okay, it's directionally correct. The way I would execute this is go back to the whole finger pointing, what can I see and smell and taste and touch and hear. What are the things that are actually going on in these people's lives? Let me give an example or two. Now, some of these examples may or may not be relevant, but follow my line of thinking here and do your own digging and speak to your audience, and you can come up with probably some even more compelling ones. But for example, were the people in your audience ever teased while they were at school, high school, elementary, doesn't matter, teased at school because of their outfits? Probably. I think that's a pretty human experience that probably almost everyone's had, right? So there's a lot of insecurity built up around that. Have they ever had an outfit that got a ton of compliments go out of style and they've experienced that loss? They were, for a sweet short period of time, they were cool, they were in, whatever it was, and either the piece that they were wearing went out of style, or it was the only thing they had that really got attention, so they wore it again and again and again, and they saw and heard and felt those compliments and those looks of admiration turn into snickers and sneers and looks of derision, right? Like, what's the... and I guess another thing here is you're talking about solving a wardrobe problem, right? But that's the surface level problem. So what I'm digging around for here is, what are the deeper underlying issues that your audience really cares about? Is it feeling a sense of belonging or being loved? Is it a sense of being, I don't know, attractive but respectable and professional at the same time? I'm supposing, because you're using Instagram a lot and Pinterest a lot, that you're probably targeting a slightly younger crowd. Like this probably isn't for the 50 plus crowd, right? I'm guessing that's a pretty safe bet to make. So what is it? What is the deeper thing that the having the right wardrobe will get them? And a nice sort of, it's not a trick, it's a tool you can use, is to talk about the sort of surface level things, frankly and openly, not because they're still relevant, but then end things off with some sort of deeper reason. So if you're talking about getting people to turn their heads and look at you, right? Like that's not actually going to change someone's life. It's something that superficially we think we want, sure, but there's actually something much deeper there, like feeling sure of yourself, comfortable in your own skin, feeling like you belong, something like that, right? And so ending a section with something like, but the best thing about all of this is that you'll get this other thing, the deeper reason, the thing that they probably haven't admitted to themselves along this search. That's when you're going to separate yourself from everyone else who's talking about talking at the most superficial level, right? A great example of this is in the weight loss space, where people talk about looking great naked or just being sexy or ripped or whatever it is, right? Cool, that's not bad, it's not wrong, it's compelling to a point, but there's a deeper underlying reason for that. So I just want to cover one more thing here, because this is already a lot to work on. Where's this? I have to find it. You don't need to do this anymore. Yes, okay. So here we're talking about the a couple reasons for failing, and two, this section's really about, or I would make it about, things that they've tried and failed at, right? The system that takes away, okay, great. You don't have to have a very specific stereotypical body type. You don't have to have a bunch of knowledge of what to shop for. But what else? What about their budget constraints? How do changing seasons affect this system? How do changing fashion trends over time affect this system? And so on and so forth. What are all the different objections people are going to have? It's like, great, I'm going to go out and buy a bunch of stuff. Sure, it's within my budget. It's within the 150 euros. Great, I can do that. Great start. But will I have to spend another 150 euros in 3 months, and then in another 3 months? And will all of this stuff be out of date a year from now? And I also don't know with this audience. I mean, in Europe, I imagine there's a greater inclination to stray away from the whole fast fashion thing, but that's also something to be conscious of, right? Depending on where your audience, how your audience relates to that whole fast fashion trend, do you want to position yourself against that, or talk more about how there are a certain number of simple ways to update your wardrobe with the seasons, or with yearly, or however, whatever cycle fashion trends go in, that are absolutely affordable and accessible. And if you have a specific number, even better, right? So that's another thing to think about. So I'm going to leave that at that. It's not that this is it. There's definitely more that we can look at, but this is the 80-20 that we've covered of this piece, and I think that if you get these elements right, the intro really is setting the stage for everything else. If you can nail your headline, if you can nail this intro section here, and get people to really feel connected to what you're saying and what you're showing them, then stuff like the offer is really just a matter of technique. It's showing people what are in the system. Yeah, there are certain things here and there that you can probably improve. Actually, I want to give one example. Here's a common thing that people will do using a superlative: the world's most, best, fastest, easiest, whatever it is. If you're going to use a superlative, just as a general rule, you can sometimes break it. Um, but my rule of thumb is if I'm using a superlative, I have to absolutely prove it. Otherwise, it's not worth being believed. So if I'm saying it's the most advanced system, what makes it the most advanced system? If I'm saying it's the fastest system, what's the data on that, right? If I'm saying it's the easiest, how can I document its ease, the time it takes, the energy it takes, or whatever it is? Otherwise, I'd simply choose a different word. In this case, you actually have data, and you talk about it in your story, and you could be, it's the most advanced system if you establish that you have, so it was what, 3,000 plus different outfits, I believe, that you had looked at, analyzed, an analysis of this many outfits and this many elements comes to how many data points. Like if there are multiple data points for each outfit, maybe you have millions of data points here. That would be pretty cool. That would absolutely make it stand out, and that would justify making a statement like this. And this goes far beyond the scope of this single sales piece. This is for anyone making any claim at any time. Back up your claims, back up your claims, back up your claims. It will separate you from all the other people in your industry who are just throwing claims around. So again, get this stuff right. The rest of the piece doesn't just take care of itself, but it will all go much smoother from there. Otherwise, if you'd like to have your own marketing pieces reviewed by yours truly and don't want to give me a $2,000 deposit like my clients have to do, then I definitely recommend at least considering the Two Llama Club, because for $300 a month, if you're one of the first 30 members in, I'll do one of these for you. It'll be an even deeper dive, like a full 30-minute to hour long analysis that makes sure you make more than you're paying me. So there is my pitch within a pitch to end off this video on this lovely sales letter. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got a lot out of it. Any questions or comments, of course, leave them below this video, and I will see you again real soon.